Okay. We'll see how we can expose Delgumi processes as a web services. So if you want to expose the Delgumi process as a web services, the first step should be your start shape should be configured as a web services server connector. This is the first step. So it means your Delgumi is acting as a web services server. Means web as a Delgumi acting as a web service server. It means that there should be some host name and port name you will be using it. So where can I check it? Okay, once you check the username, host name and port name, even you have the option of whitelisting and blacklisting the IP address from which your system want to accept the request and from which you want to block the requests. That all in that even management also you can do it. So that management where we can see go for atom management. There is a one option called shared server. Let's say I wanted to do a manage. This is my local atom. It was installed. Go for shared web server. This is the place where exactly we'll be doing all the configurations. So let's see, this is the default URL. Once any application will be deployed, any web service application will be deployed on this atom, you need to send a request at this host name and port number. And then can we protect the web services using the username password? Yes, that can be done only if you have enabled authentication to basic. So if once you enable an authentication to basic, if let's say if I'm the client and I wanted to trigger a Delgumi web services, but by default authentication is none. If I directly shared him a WSDL, or endpoint URL, that will be sufficient for him. Using this endpoint URL, he can able to get everything. He can able to get the WSDL. Only thing is, if you only the thing in the Delgumi is if you want to get an WSDL, right? You just need to use the WS. So !WSDL. In other the last session what we have seen in web service consumer is we did not show whatever the endpoint URL are there. For that endpoint URL, I told you to append !WSDL to check whether the service is running or not. So only in the for Delgumi you just need to append these things /web service /so. Just need to web service append this one so that we can able to call the Delgumi web services. So this is one of the things we just need to remember. And when you default by asking here, right, if you don't have an authentication, basic authentication, it means there is no authentication is required. It can directly open you the WSDL will be opened here. In case if you set the authentication to the basic or any certification, okay, we'll just see only basic. Okay, if you set in a basic, right, what happens? Then you need to enter your username and password. Basic in the sense username and password based authentication. So once you change this to basic, go for user management option here. You can see this option will be username. What will be your username? Your username would be your account ID. You can see this one. This account ID would be your username. And the password, the first time you need to generate your password. You need to generate your password. And if you wanted to filtering out whitelisting, language, you can specify the IP addresses here. You can specify the IP address starting pattern also you can write it. And if you wanted to, since we have a username, if you want to set a password, right? You just first time it will be you need to click on generate. Once you click on a generate, and you will be having a token, and you will be having the username. The token would be acting as a password for you, and username would be having this account ID. So with this, as soon as you click on this enter, you would be required to enter the username and password. Username would be account ID and password would be the generated token. And these details will be sharing it to the client. But next time when you are coming back to this window again, make sure you should not click on generate again and again. What happens when you click on generate again? It will regenerate the key. It means the one you shared it to the client, it won't work. You need to share it back again. That's the only difference. So that's the reason you should not generate multiple times. Generate it once, and you can just check and you can view this. There is one option called by default when you click on generated, the generated token would be showing as a star symbol. So there is one more option in the down, it's just checkbox or show. It means it will be showing the characters, what and all characters will be a password. We can take it. You should not click on generate image and every time. So this is the way how to access the web services URL once you deployed onto the Delbumi Atom. First, if you wanted to change any default port numbers, yes, you can able to change the default port numbers. Even you can add other port number also. You have all the options here. And after that, we wanted to specify any other than the default host, you want to specify any different host, all this is configuration. You can specify over here. And even you can specify maximum number of threads. Maximum number of threads, how many number of requests you wanted to be accepted at any point of time. This is what exactly you need to do. You need to configure anything on shared web server. Even you would be having a log will be downloaded for this shared web server also. Even you can download what and all what's happening on the shared server. Even you can download the log. But most of the things what we can do is we just come across to this only we'll check whether authentication is enabled or not. Authentication is enabled, take the username and password, and then what would be your endpoint URL. That's the only two things. We'll just check it and we'll come at here. Okay, now let's go back to here. This what I wanted to implement here is there was a I wanted to query an employee details. I wanted to query an customer details based on the customer ID. And this is the actual I'm going to implement it. And here the client would be sending a request containing the customer ID. I will be consuming the request from the client. When the client sends a request, the Delbumi server will be shared web server would be receiving the Delbumi shared web server will be receiving the request, and as soon as it received in request, it will be validate the request if you require, and then once you validate the request, you can take the customer ID from the request, and then you can pass this. You can do the DB lookup, and then you can send the response back. Let's see how we can create it. Let's create one of the process. Query customers by ID. Let's say I wanted to query the customers. This is the process I wanted to implement. I just want to make sure this is web services. I'll just put this one. I'm creating here. Create. Click on OK. So make sure you have to set up the start shape with web service server connector, and you can able to see only the web services server connector will be listed on start shape only. Sorry, not web service client. It would be this one. For this one, action should be only one option for you is the listen mode. Listen. Okay, once you configure, and then you need to set a connection. See, ideally, what would be setting your connection? What would be your host name? What would be your port number? These all things you are actually managing from the shared web server, from the Atom management. So if you want to manage anything, you can go ahead and do change over there. And then click on the operation. Since you don't have an operation, click on the operation. Plus, system stop. Just wait for a minute. Okay, now let's create query customers by ID. See, do you have the option of how do you want to access it? Well, maybe you can depends on the functionality. You can just it whether you want to do query or how do you want get query, create, update, upsert. Depends on the functionality. You can select it. It's not mandatory in itself. Even you can select an execute also. Okay, now I wanted to query it. As soon as you select it, this operation type would be appended to your URL. This is the URL if you wanted to invoke from HTTP. This is the URL if you wanted to invoke from the web services, so client connector. Just a second. Okay. So as soon as you select an operation type, the operation type would be added to your object name will be added like this. So now I wanted to query customers by ID. You can see that this was adding it. This will be your object name, complete object name. I'll show you the once the web services gets complete generation will be completed. So what do you want to specify here is I wanted to specify the because do you want input nothing but do you want the web services the operation should be receive any request? Yes, I wanted to receive a single XML object request. Even you can specify JSON as a request. Okay, what would be your request? What are all the fields you wanted to contain it? Maybe you can let me take one of the sample schema. Okay, let's click on plus. I wanted to create it based on the schema. Import, go for XML schema. Let's choose a file. Go back here. Then select the customer schema. Let me check. Yes. Let me check what and all you wanted to have. The first ID, customers, and the customer S. Let me just get one more. Let me go back and open the schema. Again here, I wanted to use this as a schema. Full file path to clipboard. Go back here. Go back. I wanted to specify the on this schema. In this schema, I already have the request and all the response elements will be there. Okay, what and all it's there inside this. Let me open it. Okay, it has another schema. It has another schema. I wanted to upload. I wanted to use that schema. Okay, since this has the following XML schemas are required, please locate the missing schemas. See, let's say you when you are creating an XML schema. When you're creating an XML profile based on XML schema, there might be you are using a schema. That schema might be a parent schema. It means the schema can have the some other schemas also would be referring it through the import statement or include statement. It means these are the schemas is being used it here, and this will be in separate schema. So even when you are importing it, you have to do that. So that's the reason it is asking for me to select the customer.accessd. Now one level back. So this is the customer. So if you are paying whatever the schema that you are using it, if it is using it multiple schemas, it automatically asks you to upload all the reference schemas. Now I wanted to select get customers by ID. This is my request element would be. Okay, finish. I have generated it. Then okay, next save and close. Next I wanted to specify the response. Single data, text start line, XML data I wanted to specify it here. Sorry, not XML object. Go for XML object. And then click on the response XML file here, click on import, select the schema. Okay, go for this one, select this just parent schema. It has some child schema. Again import the child schema here. Now this time I wanted to select it. Get customer ID my response. So, so as of now I have the request and response is being configured here. Click on save and close. So once I get a request, I wanted to parse it. I wanted to parse whether the request will be properly received it or not. For parsing purpose, we do have the clean sync shape would be there. I have shared a document of in the purchase order document, a Word document. In this document, you would be having this one. Okay. So in the cleans activity, what exactly it will do? In the cleans activity, it will validate your profile. It validate the data based on your profile. So what I wanted to validate? I wanted to validate based on my XML profile. Let me share. This is the request I wanted to validate. After the validation, if the XML whatever the data was coming, if the data was the data was proper with the validation as per the scheme, as per the XML profile, it is complaint, then it will be the path will be moving to the cleans path. If any errors are there, then it will be going for the rejected path. So if you are going for rejected path, you should be having an error message. That error message will be stored in a specific variable called. That error message would be stored in a specific variable called. Go for document property, metadata information. These are things will not show in trial accounts. Only these two will show. Standard connectors, a trading partner. Go for metadata and then go for the cleans results message. If you are any want to this is a try catch. If you are using the try catch for exception handling, the error message will be stored here. If you are using any business rules, we will be storing it here. These are all specific predefined error message. And then if you wanted to send anything, you can just send an email. Ideally what we will do, if any error occurred, we'll just put any message step, and in the message step we'll configure the body what you want to trigger an email. Entire body would be formulated here, the message step, and then put email connected here. So it will be sending an email. Okay. After that, I wanted to query based on customers. I wanted to call it. So instead of defining here, I wanted to define through a call process here. So let me create one of the call process. So if you wanted to use this process as a call process, you have to make sure the call process start shape would be configured to the data password. Next, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to call the database connector. What I wanted to do, I wanted to query it. Then select the, let me check whether it's properly or not. Let me check other things are there or not. I can change it to Okay, so let's go to one plus, and we already know how to configure all these things. Let's create a new operation. One plus, one statement, click on import, select the atom, click on, I want to filter it on this. Okay, select this one, select all. And then I wanted to add a condition. I wanted to filter it based on where cast ID. I wanted to use the prepaid statements. So I will be adding one field here. Okay, and then 7 clause. Okay, then we were using 7 clause. So in the parameters tab, the parameter, since only one parameter, I am going to directly setting on parameter. We have multiple fields to be set, we have multiple fields to be set, right? Then it's better to go back and use the map step. Since it's only one step, I wanted to map the elements from the XML that we actually receiving a request from the client. What would be a request? Where is it? This is the request. From this element, I wanted to map it to the customer. So then I would be getting a result. That result I wanted to formulate it to an XML. And then I need to send the response back. I need to send the response. If you wanted to return the documents from the parent process, sorry, child process to the parent process, you need to use a return document and make sure your return document will be getting right document. Return document will not validate what document it should be returned to the parent process. It directly, whatever the document it is coming, it will just throw it to the parent process. That's all it will do. It will not do any validation. Let me go here, click on plus. So I wanted to map it from the DB customer query DB. This is the one. And then to which format I need to send a final response, need to map it response that we specified in the web services server connector. This is the my response, final responses. You can map it directly here. I wanted to map this page. Okay, so this is my initial process. This is the process I wanted, and I am doing a 7 plus here. So I would be getting this process. As soon as I get this process, I wanted to print that message to the process log, what I would be sending in the response before. So I can able to track this information from the process log. We go back to current data, what we are getting here, and then I need to send a response back to the client. So what would we need to use it? Need to use the return document. This is the uses of the return document. Two uses of the return document. What are two uses? One thing is, if you wanted to return any document from the child process to the parent process, you would be using the return document. Another thing would be, whenever you are using web services, whenever you are implementing a web services, exposing or creating a web services, if you want to send a response back to the client, then you would be specifying the return document. Okay, this is as of now. This one is our implementation process. Okay, and one more thing, what I wanted to check here is before proceeding here. Before proceeding here, let me just open this. Is there any way that I can specify the fault information? I think we don't have any fault information here. So what I would be using it. Let's say if you are sending a customer ID. Okay, so sending a customer ID null value, what I need to do? I don't find any record. Then I will be getting NAT error. I don't want to make the process to be stopped somewhere in the middle. So I would be using the decision. Is cust ID null? I will be checking the request message from the process profile element. Equal to null. Just Yeah. So here you just drag and drop a message and then put an email connector. In the message, you can configure to compose a message. In the message, you can compose a message like the so and so the reason the process got, since the customer ID is coming as a null in the request, we are or the process was not able to proceed further. So please send the request with the proper request. Maybe you can send an email notification like this. And then you when do you use the exception step? Exception step basically use you wanted to throw any business faults. Let's say in this case customer ID was coming null. So if the customer ID is coming null, what happens is like when you will be going to the database connector and trying to query it, so you won't get proper data. Lookups will not happen. The ultimate database connection will be given null because so the process will not continue further to the map step and map step will get failure. So the process will be halted in middle. So instead of checking that, I'm doing a validation point before going proceed further. I'm just checking if customer ID equal null. Then I'm checking, I'm raising a business fault exception. Once the exception steps gets executed, your process execution will be halted right away and your process execution status will be displayed as an error. Okay, I wanted to specify here. We can always, this is a exception step is very similar to the message step. You can put all your static and dynamic. You can just mention the process ID. Maybe you can just put date and time and then put status and then put error message. Let's say your date and time would be the current date and time here. And then your status would be an error here. And then error message would be, you can write it here. Like what would be error message? The customer D is passing in type service request is null due to this not able to proceed further. This is the error message you would be doing it. So if the reason why I put here is if I put directly here, the process will be started halted here. It won't send further thing. So that's the reason I just put whatever the exception handling task you wanted to do it before exception and then call it. So if you want to do sequence check, this is the one. Okay, you can directly connect to this. Just a second, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Hello, Emma. Hello.
Oh, okay, let's remove these things. Sorry, back. Then, because if you don't do any configuration, the process will be showing initialization error. So let's try to see before running this process in deploy mode. First thing is you need to run it in local. But since we don't have an option of running a local in with the listen actions, what we can do for the time being, what we can do, whatever the request that would be generating, whatever the request that would be generating, using the same request, we can generate an XML file. We can generate an XML file. Let's see how we can generate an XML file. Just go for Google, generate sample XML file, XSD. Okay, let's online XSD to XML generator tool. Generate sample XML. Paste your XSD here. Okay, we wanted to paste our XSD here. Where is this? Paste this one here. So we should put the request. This is the request we wanted to do. And then what we want is I'm just putting a target namespace because I'm that's all. Whatever is earlier, we can use it for then let me use this XSD. Then I sorry, I did not paste it here. I wanted to paste it and I don't want to define any other elements here because it is generating all the examples. Generate XML here. This is how XML would be generated here. This is the XML I will be using it here for running my process. So if you want to run the process in local, make sure you have to change the data to the start data and then put your some message step here, because how you whatever the request data that would be coming in the web service request, that you would be passing as a that you would be passing as some string. This is the XML value, this is the string I'm passing it. So the just message step is using just hard coding your request and then see whether all your execution will be working or not. So only the web service functionality we can see it later. How to trigger to the web services communication channel, we can see it here. But as of now, as we are just we are make sure that our process entire process was running. Okay, so what we got here is why this was stopped here. What was the data is coming here? Get customer by ID. This was correct from it and why it has stopped it here. Let's go back and see any login here. Start message claims and executing claim check one document normally. It's run once again. Mm, then let's open it. What exactly we configured it? We configured XML profile. Is there any namespaces here? Maybe because of the namespace is causing the issue. Let me put this namespaces here. Copy and what will be your response? Let's copy this response to here. Let me open this because we were using you will be having the one more tool I'll show you. With that you will be able to generate your request. Let me make this request should be available. XMLNS is equal to, make sure always put some double quotes. You can just put prefix like CUS. Maybe you can just put CUS as a first ID. Since in the actual schema the customer ID was referring from here, it means this is the namespace for here. So you can just copy this because it looks like namespace is not matching and because of it's not going further. So you can just put NS0. Not I type O NS0. Let me put this request. Let me just enter this thing. Okay, now let me validate whether this proper thing is validated or not. How do I can go ahead and validate? XML validate now. Opening and ending tag mismatch. First ID somewhere. Okay, this was C got missed out here and I'm editing it. So before you go save here, I wanted to validate this validate XML here. It is asking to specify the schema path. So let me cancel this and copy. This is a schema. I wanted to specify full file path to clipboard. And then go here, validate now. Okay, this is valid. So I think this proper value. Request. Just go back here and then change this to delete and we continue. So that's the XML. When you're working with XML namespace should be proper. Otherwise, even in the real time, some of the things will be able to identify. You are trying to access some particular value or mapper, it won't generate any value. The reason is because the namespaces are not matched out here. Because of that, it could not move further. Okay, now it moved it further, and you can see that your namespace is included here, and it validated success. and it verified the customer ID, also satisfied the customer ID is not null. Then it went further. Okay. Then if you wanted to see the child execution process, I wanted to see why it is not moving here. If you wanted to see the child execution, select the on the process call and then click on this arrow. This will take you to the child process execution. What and all it is executed in the child process. It's loading the execution status. Okay, you did not, whatever the ID that you have given it, it was not given properly here. Okay, then we'll just, because of that it stopped it here. So let me pull out one of the customer ID that was available in my database. I think what I can do is quickly connect to database and then connect as a booming, and then I want it to be query select first ID from customer. Okay, I can take one of the thing is 40032 last one is. I can pass the request. If you want to go back to the parent execution, click on this one. Just drop down it here, and even you can click on backspace also. Automatically go back to the parent execution. Now let me change the customer ID here. Change the customer ID is 2. This is the value I want to place for the customer ID. Let me have, sorry, I did not copy that. 40032. 40032. 40032. Right. So let me paste it. Delete the existing one and paste it back. Save it. Once this is running as expected, then I can go ahead and I can run my process. I can deploy it and then I can run it on local. Then I can run it on, yes, I can see what exactly the response is being generated here. You can see this is the entire customer details got pulled out. Yes, this is working as expected now. Let me trying to, if you wanted to see the child process execution, go back to the child process here. And then you can be able to see that execution, child process execution. What was the data was coming as a data to the child process. Since there was no modification to the current data, so the same data, whatever the request was being passing, the same request data will be passing here also. So then the message will be converted here, and till the time it reaches here, it will be sending an XML data. The same XML data would be passing back to the parent process, and the same whatever the response we get from the child process, that will be sending as a response. So let's try to send one more thing called I wanted to send a null value over here. I wanted to send a null value here. Instead of me sending this one, just sending null tag. Okay, here you can see that it went to here and it stopped the execution. What was the thing we written here? We written that process name query customer ID process web service, date time is this time, but status was error message, the customer ID was passing is request is null due to this not able to process for the same thing. Okay, now my process was running as expected. So I wanted to reconfigure the web services here. Go back to connector here and then select the connector back here. So this is to be web service server connector. And select our this one. Let's save and then go for a deploy. Then go ahead and see your process would be available here. Okay, as of now, why it was not showing the another atom, only it was showing because this atom is not part of an environment. So let's move this process to an environment. What was the environment here? This is one of the environment. Let's move this process. I wanted to move this process to environment. So how I can move it? Either select an atom and then select the environment name to here. Deployment rejected. Attempted to deploy two more standard connections. Doing so would exceed your purchases for this limit class by two connections. Please undeploy unused processes to lower usage of your account. Otherwise, the contact a sales representative to purchase more licenses. So what happened exactly here is some of the process was deployed on this one. We can able to see how many number of connections have been licensed here in this particular account. By default, only one connection got take a license here. And if your process was already the one license was already been over, you already been used that account. And if you are trying to deploy a process that contains some other connectors, then your process will not able to deploy it because sufficient number of connections are not available. Go for licensing. Only two connectors, already deployed. Then you cannot able to deploy further process. This is a where the actual exactly Boomi was charging a license based on the connections connection based license. Boomi is not charging a license for using your tool. So this is what the deployment will be restricted, will not be deployed. So let's find out what and all the process was deployed on this particular atom, and let's go ahead and undeploy all these things. You can see this one. This was a, let me take a screenshot of this one. I can go ahead and let's go here, snipping tool. Now let me go ahead and edit this process. Okay. Let me go back here, deploy. Get book deals, get book process. Let's get book process. This is the one thing. If you wanted to undeploy what you want to do, go for attachment. Just click on go for attachments. Deployment is nothing but attaching attachments. Undeployment nothing but unattached here. It's already attached here. I'm going to use this is a detaching. Want to attach anything, you wanted to use it this one. So since I'm telling to attach this environment to here, so this process would be now undeployed. Now go back and see whether the get book process would be deployed on this or not. Still deployed on it. No. Then one more thing I want to undeploy, get book details by title. Book details. This is the process. Let's do the same thing here also. Now go back and see whether the connections has been released or not. Still not. Let's try to deploy now. Where is our process? This one is. Okay. You can just click on this one. This is how we basically deploy it. Go for attachment here. Go for unattached environment. Then click on the environment to here. Attach the environment to your process. Click on deploy latest version of the process. If you want to specify anything, you can specify the comments here. Here, this is the place where exactly it will be calculating all your what I can say, all your dependencies, how many number of connectors was using inside this, all these things will be verified here. If any connections are using, then the process will not be deployed here. You can see who was deployed, what was the deployment time, what was the nodes mentioned here, and we can able to track each and everything. Now let me go ahead and go for the atom management. Let me select this atom. Okay, I was deployed on this only. You can see this one is deployed, and now quickly run this process. How we can run this process? Because I am not, I have just that account is not mine, so maybe it might be chance to get go down. Query customers by ID. Okay, this is my process, and then what was the client? Just go for the web service client. So what exactly we need to do? If you wanted to call a web services, you need to use the web services soap client connector. Web services soap client connector. Okay, let's. One more thing is I wanted to check what and all it is deployed here. One more thing here is atom management. Atom management. Go here and take shared web server settings. What's the URL is? This is URL. Go this. If you wanted to develop soap WSDL. Sometimes this is also local atom. I think it's not properly configured, but still this will be accessible from the Delbumi atom. Who's not able to get the WSDL, I think we can quickly go ahead and we can see the DNS lookup. The host name is not able to resolve it here because this is not exactly the network question. So let me go back here and then service of client. And if you want to call a web services, you just need to use the web services. And we already done these things. Okay, this is the one how we need to specify that. After your URL, you need to specify WSO question mark WSDL, and this will be your endpoint URL, and there is no security as of now. And then just go for this operation. I wanted to import structures because this is an atom. My process was deployed in here, and this was the web service connection. Click on next. As soon as you click on next, it will try to connect to the atom, and it will list out the number of web services process was deployed on this atom, on this URL. So it will list out all these details. You can see that only one web service project was deployed. Click on next. It will try to list out the operations. So we already have deployed a process with an operation called get customer ID. It automatically generates all the things. And click on save and close now. Now what we need to pass? We need to pass a request here. What is the request I wanted to pass it here? You can specify the parameter here. You can just pass a request here. As soon as you pass a request here, you can just specify what is the customer ID you wanted to specify. 400. Then run your process. As soon as you run a process, your process will be triggering and process reporting. Click on the atom. This was the atom I wanted to run it. Now it is trying to call a web services. So as soon as web services was there, you can see that error retrieving DB. Okay. Actually, the problem here is the web services was have deployed a process to an atom, different atom, but my database was running on my system. Because of this, it is not able to loading it. Here you can see error retrieving DB. Listener repeats the connection with the following because it's not able to access it. What I told you that if you wanted to access database, your Atom and database should be installed on the same server. But in this case, it would be Atom database was installed here, and the database was installed on my system, and I have deployed a process on this one. Because of this, I think we are not able to add. As soon as I click on this, the process should be attached to here. Okay, let me try to deploy other processes which are already there. What another process? DB2 Salesforce account. DB2 Salesforce accounts. What is this? Another thing is error handling also there. This is where the error handling is there. Let's go here and deploy all these things. And one more thing was DB2 Salesforce account. Where is this? Type your process DB2 Salesforce account. I think this process was renamed this. Go for Atom management. Select it. Go for deploy process. How many things are deployed? I think we are not able to find out this. Now let me try to go for this one and try to add this to here. Even you can add and select on here, and you can drop down and you can add this one also. Saying two connections already been executed. But at least you will be getting some response. You know how to trigger a web service, and we are getting a web service response here. We are getting this. That's all we can trigger, but at least you can see from here is the web service was triggered here, because I could not able to attach it here. And what other information I can do is, maybe I can go for get book details by title. I can deploy this process. Yeah, I can call this process get book details, get book deals by details by title. So here what I am exactly doing, I'll be sending some request. What would be a request? I can see my request over here. That request, I'll be sending a request. This is a request I'm sending some title information. Based on the title, I wanted to pull out all the book detail. The entire book data I have hard coded here. Each and every time this is the book data, it will go here. Based on the title, right? If I pass title, what was the title I been passing here? Becoming somebody. See this one. As soon as I pass it, I should get this book information. Let's see. Let's try to deploy this process. And I already deployed this process. I wanted to run this process. So how we can call this process? I wanted to show an execution here. So let's go here. Let me show what exactly it was using it here. Get book by title. Okay, then let's since I change this one here, I need to send a request also here. And this one we need to pass. Take it up. Maybe let me say becoming somebody. I'm going to pass this one. Then let me run this process. Select the item, this one. Here this is also web service process I created earlier. Even you can use item management and you can see the where. So this is as soon as you send a request, as soon as you send a request, you would be the process would be triggering an item management, and it means we are a client now. And as a client, I am also Delbumi acting as a client as well as server now, because in real time what you will be do, you will just create a web service and give it to them, the endpoint URL, and then what happens, you will be the client would be triggering whatever the part you are doing here for triggering part. This will be in the real time will be replaced by an external systems. So he would be triggering you, and as soon as he triggered, you will be getting a request here. You get a request here. You can see that what exactly you need. Maybe we can just open this process. Is there any logs have been put here? I think there is no logs being put here. Only thing, whatever the request are coming, only that request we are putting it. After that we are not okay. Let's go ahead and see the process here. I wanted to see the process log here. Click on this file symbol. You will be able to open the log file here. This was the one of the notify shape I put it. Notify shape, as I told you, what it will do, notify shape? Notify shape will just write the data to the process log. So I wanted to XML to convert this less than to greater than to all these things. It will be double quote. So this would be actually, okay, I think I have hard coded here in the process. This was the request were coming, and in the response also we can see what was the coming. Where is this? I think here. I think if you go here, right, in the request, I might have hard coded whatever the request were coming. Yes, we are sending it here. This was the request, we received it here. Sorry, here. This was the request, and let's see what was the XML data we retrieved it for the web services process. After we trigger it, we got a response here. Wrote the response here, connection data. You can see the response here. This was the request actually you sent it for this through the connector, and this was the response you actually sent it here. Okay. If this was this is how the file based one, but I could not able to run the database thing. I just showed this execution. This was the thing. What I was just done it here. Since we have a multiple books, right? Since we have a multiple books here, and each and every book I just looped it here inside. If you see the execution, right? How this one is done. I just hard coded here with whatever the request I'm coming. I just logged it here, and then I just store the title information here in the dynamic process property. Whatever the requests that were coming here in the stored in a process property, and I put the child process here. In the child process, I just hard coded our entire book data. Each and every time the book data will be passed here. So I have, since multiple books are there, I have process for each book here, split based on each book, and then each and everything I'm just verifying whether the title matches or not. So you can see that book title, whether from the message step, whatever you are getting, that is matching with the dynamic process property that we stored from the request. Both are matching or not. If matching, they're just sending only those many number of requests we are sending it here. So the same thing has been, or you can see that from the process log also just triggered. Even you can just click on this timestamp and you can see that what are the written document actually it sent. You can see that written document was sent. This was the web service response. It was sent it here. You can see this is the response it sent it. What is the request here for you? Request would be view document. This would be your request. Even you can see the same thing for the previous execution what we tried it with. You can see success 0, error 1. Error, go for error. Whatever error, whatever, you can just see view document. You can see this is actual request we sent it. Customer ID, we just send a null value on it. Okay, sorry, this is the right data. Okay, since we are not getting the proper data, right? So what we can do, I wanted to throw an error. For generating error, you no need to go into that level. So what we can do here is, just stop this one. Query customers by ID. Here, what we can do, we can specify an empty data here, the customer. You can see what was the response it came. On refresh, you can see this time it was executed successfully. Success 0 and error 0. What was exactly coming here? You can just see that. So the request is query customers by ID. Same was sent as a response. Same as sent as a response here. You wanted to see how what and all the activities got executed. You wanted to see what and all activities got executed. Just go back here, click on actions, view process table. You can see what and all shapes it has been executed. Start. After start, directly jumped out. It did not send any request at all. Whatever sent, it just executed here. You can see it is not exactly going through all the steps. If you see this one, get title, you would be able to see all the details, what and all shapes has been executed here. New process state. You will be able to see what and all shapes it has been. After start, it then after start, you can see that. After start, you can see notify, then set property, then process call, notify, then store, no, set property, then process call. Inside process call, again it has the book data, split each book, title matches or not, how many times it went it, how many documents it went for false path, two are the document false went for false path, and one is success document, and the same one success document will be returned to the parent process. This is how you can check all the details.